It was the year 1969, and the world held its breath as the Apollo 11 mission prepared for one of humanity's most audacious feats. NASA had set its sights on the moon, and the pressure was enormous. Could mankind actually land on the lunar surface? The man chosen for this historic moment was Neil Armstrong, a quiet, determined astronaut who had already proven his mettle. But as Armstrong sat in the spacecraft, staring at the vast, empty space, an eerie sense of uncertainty loomed. Was he truly ready to take that giant leap for mankind? As the countdown to the moon landing began, tensions soared. Armstrong, along with Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, was headed for a mission no one had ever attempted before. The spacecraft rumbled with power as it blasted off, the roar of the engines resonating through space. Armstrong's mind was sharp, but his body was heavy with the weight of the mission. He knew that the eyes of the entire world were upon him. The journey to the moon would take several days, and with each passing moment, the unknowns seemed to grow. What if something went wrong? As Apollo 11 hurtled towards the moon, every small noise and movement inside the spacecraft felt magnified. Armstrong sat quietly, going over his checklist, his hands steady despite the mounting pressure. Suddenly, a new challenge emerged. One of the guidance systems had malfunctioned. For a split second, panic could have taken hold. But Armstrong was a seasoned pilot. He had faced life-threatening situations before. He took control of the situation, recalibrating the systems and regaining stability. The mission was back on course, but doubts lingered. What other surprises would the moon have in store? After days of travel, the Apollo 11 spacecraft finally reached lunar orbit. But the hardest part was still ahead, the descent to the surface. Armstrong and Aldrin would have to carefully navigate the lunar module, landing on a surface no human had ever touched. As Armstrong took control, the lander's descent engine roared to life. The tension was palpable. With only a limited amount of fuel left, Armstrong's heart raced as he steered the module towards the rough terrain below. The moon's surface was far more treacherous than anticipated. Would they land safely? The landing was bumpy, the lunar module shuddering violently as it made contact with the surface. But against all odds, the moon's surface was beneath them. Armstrong looked out of the small porthole, his heart pounding in his chest. He had done it. He had safely landed on the moon. But the hardest part was still to come. Armstrong knew that stepping onto the moon would not only be a moment of personal triumph, but a defining moment for humanity. Yet, as he prepared to open the hatch, a strange calm washed over him. Was this really happening? As Armstrong slowly descended the ladder, every step was deliberate, measured. His boots touched the lunar dust, leaving the first human footprints on another world. The moment was surreal. He stood there, gazing at the vast, empty horizon, with only the cold silence of the moon surrounding him. But his mind raced with the enormity of the task at hand. This wasn't just a scientific achievement. It was a victory for all of mankind. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind, he uttered into the radio, his voice carrying across the cosmos. As Armstrong continued his exploration of the moon's surface, Aldrin joined him, and the two men planted the American flag. But there was a sense of unease in the air. Despite the monumental success of the mission, Armstrong couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The isolation of the moon, the utter silence, made it feel as though they were the only beings alive in the universe. Were they truly alone? Armstrong's thoughts briefly wandered to the unknowns of space, but he quickly pushed them aside. He had a job to do. The clock was ticking. The astronauts had limited time to gather samples and conduct experiments. Every minute on the moon counted. But the moon itself seemed to mock their haste, as if it held its secrets just out of reach. Armstrong and Aldrin worked in tandem, collecting soil samples and setting up scientific instruments. Yet, despite their success, Armstrong couldn't help but feel that there was still so much more to uncover. The moon was vast, but it was also a mystery. Would the answers to the universe's most profound questions be found here? With their mission complete, Armstrong and Aldrin returned to the lunar module, knowing that their time on the moon had come to an end. But as they prepared for liftoff, a deep sense of unease settled in. Would they make it back to Earth? The journey back was just as perilous as the landing. But as the lunar module ascended from the surface, Armstrong felt a sense of relief. They had made it. The world would soon learn of their success. The historic moment of walking on the moon was a dream come true. But what would the future hold for space exploration? When Armstrong finally returned to Earth, he was greeted as a hero. The world marveled at his courage and accomplishment. But Armstrong remained humble. He never saw himself as a hero. He was simply doing his job. Despite the fame, he remained a quiet, reserved man, refusing to bask in the glory of his achievement. Yet, his footsteps on the moon had forever changed humanity's understanding of space and possibility. The moment he set foot on the lunar surface was not just a personal triumph. It was a victory for all of humanity, a reminder of the power of human ingenuity.